A Nave girl is seriously ill and living out her last days. Having found out that her husband is cheating on her with her best friend, she makes a scandal, but her husband takes her life. Returning to the past, the heroine gets a chance to change her fate and take revenge on her offenders. The series begins with Kang Jin-won, a girl with cancer. She looks out the window with despair, but her best friend visits and supports her, claiming that the girl is as beautiful as ever. Jin informs Sumin that her husband is cheating on her as he sent a text 2 days ago saying he missed her and then deleted it, claiming he was confused. Sumin calms down her friend and asks her not to make up anything, believing that it was all a ridiculous mistake. The friend is sure that Jin's husband is faithful and will not cheat on her, so she should calm down and think about her health. After the treatments, Jin goes to bed and remembers her past. She married Puk a while ago, and it seemed like it was going to be a happy marriage. During the celebration, she threw a bouquet to her best friend, hoping that she would next find a worthy husband. On the wedding day, Jin was upset that her parents were not at the wedding. Her mother-in-law supported the girl in her time of need and stated that she could call her mom from today. The mother-in-law was amazingly kind, but it didn't last long. Just a few days after the wedding, the woman turned into a rude and sullen relative, supporting her husband and reproaching her daughter-in-law in everything. Jin began to be insulted by the woman and hoped that her husband would support her, but it did not happen. Sometime later, Pak quit his job and stated that he did so to have more free time. With a small stockpile of money, he invested it in the stock market and bought shares in a small company, believing that this would allow him to get rich. Soon all the shares burned up and the family went into debt. Jin was outraged by this, not realizing how the family would pay off the debts, but her husband did not care about this problem. Problems in the family reflected not only on home life but also on Jin's work, because of which she began to fight regularly with her boss. After returning home, the girl every time hoped that her husband would take over the household chores, but it did not happen. Sitting from morning to evening on the couch, Puk began to treat his wife as a housekeeper, who is obliged not only to earn and provide for the family, but also to do laundry, cooking, and cleaning. Jin was going through all this until one day she went to the doctor and found out that she had terminal cancer. The girl thought that at least during this difficult period her husband and mother-in-law would support her, but they continued to treat her in a consumerist way, demanding more and more money to provide for them. Jin continued to work hard, but soon her health took its toll and she found herself in the hospital. Snapping out of the unpleasant memories, Jin realizes that her life is slowly coming to an end. This saddens the girl, but she is glad that she has such a loyal and wonderful friend as Sumin. Soon Jin meets a hospital worker and learns that the costs of her treatment have not been paid. The girl is surprised because she gave money to her husband and asked him to take care of it. Trying to understand the situation, Jin called Puk, but he did not answer. After sending her spouse several messages and not receiving a response, the girl decided to go out to the yard and take a little walk. Feeling that her well-being allows her to go home, Jin stops a cab. The driver turns out to be a nice and pleasant man, discussing the weather and other small things with the passenger. Jin promises to pay when she arrives home, as she has no money. The man's talk does not lift her spirits, as Jin knows that she has only a few months to live. At one point, the driver took the girl on a different route, and she became frightened, assuming that he was up to something bad. The cab driver reassured the passenger, explaining that this way was better because the scenery was more beautiful. Upon arrival, the man refused the money and cheered the girl up, wishing her the best. Opening the front door, Jin was shocked to notice someone else's red shoes on the doorstep. She was even more surprised by this fact when she realized that she had seen the exact same shoes on her friend. As it turned out, Puk and Sumin were lovers dating behind her back. Knowing that Jin is about to lose her life, the couple doesn't hide their relationship and openly arranges a wedding after that day arrives. Instead of paying for the treatment, the husband paid for Jin's life insurance to make a good profit on it. Upon learning that her husband had been waiting for her to get sick from day one, Jin began to cry. Her father was also sick with cancer and left this world early, so Pak had calculated everything in advance and constantly invested in the insurance to make good money from it. Angry, Jin burst into the room and demanded an explanation. The friend tried to justify herself, but the girl pounced on her with fists. Puck decided to stand up for his mistress and pushed his wife so hard that she fell, smashing the table with her head, as a result of which she lost her life. Perhaps the worst part of the situation is that the husband and best friend were calm. They were only frightened by the possibility of being punished and going to jail, so the couple agreed to say that everything that happened was an accident. Waking up, Jin sees Puck in front of her and attacks him, accusing him of treason and betrayal. It seemed that the girl is able to demolish everything in her path, but at some point she was stopped by her manager, reminding her that you cannot behave like this at work. Surprised by this, Jin looked around and realized that she was in the office, although a minute ago she was at home. Running up to the mirror, the girl couldn't believe her eyes as she saw herself quite young and with hair. It soon became clear that she had traveled back in time 10 years to a time when she had just started her relationship with Puck. Running outside, Jin was even more surprised when she realized that it was all real and she was really in 2013, and there were still 10 years until her husband would take her life. The manager went outside after her subordinate and helped her find her lost shoes, and then offered her a ride home in his car. He offered money, but Jin modestly refused and thanked him for his help, remembering that the bag with the keys was left at work. Going up to the house, the girl checks the groceries in the refrigerator, finally convinced that she had traveled back in time. In the evening, the manager decides to visit Jin and buys groceries to feed the hungry girl. A little later, Jin begins to question whether the future was real or if it all turned out to be a dream. Digging through her things, the girl finds money in one of her jacket pockets and realizes that everything that happened was real. On one of the bills that the cab driver gave her, there is a drawn heart, which was often drawn by her late father. Jin realizes that the man who gave her a ride home was her father and helped her go back in time to start her life with a clean slate and live it better. The girl promises herself to correct her past mistakes, as she is suddenly visited by Puck, with whom she works in the same office. The guy brings the girl a bag and invites her on a date to have lunch at a nearby cafe. Once at the table, Jin does not eat anything and looks at Puck with disgust, knowing that in the future he will cheat on her with her best friend. Noticing that she refuses to eat, Puck assumes that the girl is pregnant, and she remembers how in the marriage her husband was against children, afraid of the responsibility. Jin reassures the guy, claiming she's fine, and then suggests they'd break up. Puck pursues her and demands an explanation, after which he raises his hand on the girl. Random passersby call the police to rescue the girl who finds herself in a difficult situation. At the police station, Jin was asked to write a statement on the guy, but she did not do it. The girl realized that no one could help her but her, so there was no point in it. Upon returning home, Jin decides to use her knowledge of the future. She realizes that she does not have to work, since she knows the names of large companies whose shares will rise in price hundreds or even thousands of times. Having invested in them, she will be able to provide for herself and not work, so the girl feels happy. Puck writes Jin messages and offers to return the relationship, but she does not want to return to someone who will humiliate, deceive, and betray her. The next morning, the girl goes to the hospital to check her health and make sure that she is not yet sick with cancer. Appreciating this chance, she decides to take care of her health to live a happy life. Taking a leave of absence from work, the girl spends time in the library where she meets the manager and is embarrassed by an awkward situation with him. After paying attention to the manager's hand, the girl notices a burn and realizes that he was the one who saved her from a kettle of boiling water. The manager invites Jin to dinner, and she decides to accept, realizing that she is now a free girl and nothing prevents her from accepting his offer. Once again paying attention to the man's burn, Jin realizes that now her fate has completely changed, because in the alternate past it was she who received this burn. Sumin writes messages to her friend and offers to meet, but Jin ignores her, continuing to spend time in the company of the manager. A short while later, Jin returns to work. Noticing Puck near the elevator, she decides to take the stairs so as not to cross paths with him. Despite this, the guy tries to talk to her in the office, but Jin avoids the conversation. Knowing how the future may turn out, the girl decides to prepare a project on behalf of her boss. Knowing that the approved project will allow her to get a promotion and become a manager, She decides not to be lazy as before, but to do everything she can to advance her career. Knowing every detail that will happen, Jin realizes that she has switched places with a successful colleague and moves her coffee cup to keep it from falling to the floor. Soon after, Pook decides to talk to the girl again, but she runs away. At one point, Jin falls and bumps herself painfully, realizing that similar things have happened to her in the past. Jin begins to realize that many events in life cannot be avoided and will happen sooner or later. This saddens the girl because she realizes that she will become Pook's wife and years later, he will take her life. Horrified by such thoughts, Jin decides to think of a way to get rid of the annoying Pook to change her fate and become happy. After talking to her manager, the girl realizes that she stole his fate, and now she can become rich instead of him. He got burned and she invested in stocks and will do the task by getting a promotion. Everything that happened in the past will happen again, but you can make it happen to another person. Realizing all this, the girl acts as cautiously as possible, completely distancing herself from Pook and Sumin. The next morning, Jin wanted to avoid talking to her friend and boss, but accidentally ran into them near the elevator. Here she also met the boss who suggested to talk on the roof. During the dialogue, the girl realized that Heck was the perfect man and not like Pook. She would be happy to continue communication, but the friend who appeared on the roof spoils the romantic atmosphere. After the conversation on the roof, Hank returns to his office to look at the girl's file and learn more about her. The man began to think about his subordinate as she suddenly entered his office to hand over painkillers for a burn on his arm. A little later, the guy asks for a conversation and lures the girl into the office space. He doesn't understand what's going on or why he's failing financially, so he wants to make up for the loss from her. A coworker shows up in the room, causing Pook to have to leave. During lunch, Sumin suggests that her friend go to a restaurant, but the girl flatly refuses, claiming that she will go to the dining room on the first floor. The friend wants to be close to Jin, so she declares that she will go with her. Thinking back to an alternate past, Jin knows that food was accidentally turned on her, resulting in her humiliation. This time, the same situation happens to Pook and Jin reacts with a smile. In the restroom, the girl meets a coworker who has also soiled herself and offers her help. A little later, she suggests that the coworker join them and sit at the same table. The girl feels awkward about the situation with Pook, but Jin asks her not to worry about it. After lunch, many of the office workers rush to the elevator, causing it to have little free space. Puck and Sumin press up against each other, and they feel a little awkward about the whole thing. Increasingly ignoring her friend and refusing to meet at the cafe after work, Jin returns to the office to talk to a coworker named Yang. Yang is impressed with Jin's project, but can't help with its implementation and defense because she is treated with disrespect by her superiors. Jin tries to support her coworker and claims that their bosses don't read most papers and projects, rejecting them blindly. Yang is willing to make sure of this and help the girl if this is indeed the case. The next morning, Jin presents a project to the supervisor, but he doesn't accept it. A few hours later, she provides what appears to be a corrected version, although she actually brings the same documents. The boss informs her that this version, with all the revisions, meets his expectations. Colleagues in the office openly laugh at the boss, realizing that he really doesn't read their drafts and didn't notice that Jin provided him with the same documents twice. Sumin notices this and decides to get close to the elderly boss. She flirts with him and steals one of the projects, hoping to pass it off as her own and get a promotion. In the evening, Sumin invites the man to a restaurant and continues to flirt, noticing that he is discouraged by her beauty. Meanwhile, Hick is bowling with a friend and talks about a charming and intelligent subordinate named Jin. The friend doesn't understand why Hick only talks about the girl but doesn't date her, since he is rich and handsome, which means he can get anyone. Hick admits that he is afraid of a strong girl and is not ready to get married, realizing that she is unlikely to fall in love with him. After all, just recently she dated a work colleague, Pook. At the end of the workday, Jin notices that her friend forgot a gift box with earrings on the table. Sumin wants to wear the gift on Sunday for the reunion and has invited her friend to come to the restaurant as well. Jin recalls that in her alternate past, everyone paid attention to her appearance and mocked her because of her modest clothes. She was very offended, but at the same time the girl got used to it, because in school, she was also constantly bullied. On the way out of the office, Jin met Hick, who offered her his services to give her a ride home, but the girl firmly refused. Park continues to terrorize Jin and write to her, claiming that he misses her and would like to return the relationship. The girl decides to meet him, but only to get Park and Sumin together as soon as possible. After receiving an invitation to dinner, Pook thought it was a romantic date and appeared in front of the girl without clothes. He tried to brush and get her, but the only thing Jin experienced was disgust. A couple moments later, the girl got lucky as there was a knock on the door. When she opened the door, she met a delivery man who brought her fried chicken for dinner. The girl is surprised by this delivery, since she didn't order food and asks Pook about it. He didn't order anything either and asks the delivery man to leave quickly, but he confirms the correctness of the order. The deliveryman is not going to leave without money, as a result of which Pak fights with him, acting as inadequately as possible. Taking advantage of the situation, Jin simply locked the door and refused to let Pook back in. He was incredibly violent with the delivery guy and scared her as the girl doesn't want history to repeat itself. In an attempt to get rid of the annoying Pook standing outside the door, Jin texts him and gets results. As soon as the guy moves away, the girl opens the door and throws his shoes out, then hastily closes the door. Pook returns and talks about his feelings, but Jin continues to ignore his words. As it turns out later, the delivery man was no ordinary man, but an acquaintance of Hick, whom he sent to the girl's house to check if she has a lover or not. Upon learning that she had Pook at her house, the man was upset, but rejoiced when he noticed that the girl had kicked him out of the house. The next morning, Hick meets with the restaurant's chef to prepare a special dinner. As it turns out, the chef was a classmate of Jin and Sumin, so he knows the girls very well. Moreover, he was in love with one of them during his school days. After hearing about the girls, Chef realizes that he still has feelings and decides to go to the reunion to have a closer chat with Jin. Meanwhile, Jin stays up all night thinking about what she should wear and how she should put on makeup to look better than the other girls and not get into the same horrible situation as in the alternate past. At one point, Jin gets upset, realizing that she can't be as beautiful as Sumin, but her friend keeps insisting that she attend the party. In the evening, Sumin shows up at the restaurant and meets some former classmates. All of them are delighted not only by the girl's beauty, but also by her intelligence, because she works in a famous company. Sumin declares that Jin should also come to the party. The former classmates are shocked by her boldness, because they have been bullying the modest and unhappy girl for years. They are ready to continue their jokes now, so they eagerly await her appearance. Sometime later, Jin appears in the restaurant and shocks everyone present, because she looks incredibly beautiful and stylish. After surprising everyone at the party, Jin delves into her memories and realizes that she had to be Sumin's shadow, and perhaps her friend was only friends with her to be more attractive against her background. One day, Jin and Sumin agreed that they would go on a date with a guy together, so that the girl wouldn't be scared. Early in the morning, she saw some beautiful earrings on promotion and decided to buy them. She did not have money for real jewelry, so she had to buy a fake on the market with an attractive appearance. Remembering more and more about the events of the past, Jin realizes that Sumin was constantly buying jewelry and clothes that were similar to her image, but looked a little better and more expensive. On one of their dates, they looked like sisters, but with Pook spending more time with Sumin and Jin and having to run after them with bags in hand. A few hours before, Jin meets with a work colleague. Colleague supports the girl in her time of need and learns about her problems. Jin feels embarrassed because she did the same thing as Sumin by buying the same earrings. Asks her not to worry because she didn't do anything wrong. At the same time, the girl doesn't understand why her former classmates hated her all her school years, since she didn't do anything wrong. Yu doesn't know the whole situation, but suggests that she doesn't avoid conflicts anymore, because it's time for her to learn how to defend herself. Yu takes Jin to a beauty salon, where the girl is helped to make beautiful hair and makeup. The colleague not only helps to change her appearance, but also uses subscriptions and acquaintances to save money on services, and pays all the bills herself, which makes Jin a little embarrassed. The girl was already attractive enough, but thanks to the specialists and Yu's efforts, she has changed dramatically, becoming even more beautiful and hot. Having gained not only looks but also self-confidence, she chose a new dress and prepared the perfect image to shock her former classmates. Sumin, being a friend, decided to steal Jin's project and offered her help to fix it. Anticipating her friend's actions, the girl refused, saying that it was her project and she would bring it to completion without any help. Sumin offered to join forces to make joint edits, but was again refused and only made Jin angry. After her conversation with her friend, Sumin meets with an older boss and agrees that Jin's name will be dropped from the project and Sumin, having become the man's mistress, will take her place. Only the next night Jin went to the reunion, where she shocked everyone with her appearance. Classmates did not expect that the modest girl who was bullied could be so attractive. Sumin notices the same earrings on her friend and gets angry, but Jin puts her in her place because she decided to buy real earrings, not a cheap fake like her friends. In fact, Jin bought a fake too, but Yu helped her work on the quality of the cheapo, resulting in the jewelry having an expensive shine and appearance. Sumin was humiliated and crushed, but Jin decided not to stop there, remembering that in the past future her friend had become a traitor and her husband's mistress. In the restroom, the three girls who bullied Jin at school tried to bully her once again, but the girl learned to defend herself. She proved that her status was higher than theirs and even called Puk to confirm that he was running after her to be there for her. About to leave the party, Jin decided to get revenge on her abusers and put them in their place. Soon the chef shows up at the party and witnesses the conflict. He defends Jin and helps to cope with the girl's onslaught, after which she escapes and the guy goes after her. Chef falls in love with the beautiful Jin again and asks her for her cell phone number, not assuming that Hik is watching them. Showing jealousy, the boss called the girl and demanded an urgent meeting related to their work. After meeting her boss and heading to the conference room, Jin witnesses a new business idea. She knows that the social network will be extremely popular in 10 years, so she states to Hik that it is a great idea worth investing in. The head of the company is a stern man, but he doesn't hold back his interest in the hottie and asks Hik to introduce him to Jin. After trying out the new app, the head of the company criticizes it because it shows him adult material and it's not interesting to him. Jin explains that the content is selected randomly and you should indicate your preferences so that the materials are selected more correctly. The head of the company is skeptical, but Hik assures him that Jin is the smartest employee and her opinion should be listened to. Meanwhile, it's not Jin who becomes the victim of bullying by her former classmates, but Sumin. As it turned out, at school it was she who was the cause of her friend's suffering, but now it's her turn. Angry at her ex-girlfriends, Sumin goes to the bathroom and cries, losing control of her emotions. After that, she tries to call Jin, but the girl doesn't answer her calls as she is with Hik and her cell phone is disconnected. A while later, Sumin returns to the hall to try to communicate with the girls, but notices that the guests have dispersed and there is no one in the restaurant. After a business meeting in the hall, Hik offers Jin a ride. The girl decided to refuse, but the man was quite insistent in his desire. After a business meeting in the hall, easier to agree than to continue to argue. The girl decided to receive a call from her friend, was quite insistent in his desire, and she realized that it was easier to agree someone's messages and responded with a smile. Jin received a call from her friend who she was communicating with. The call. The chief learned that it was a classmate that the girl was answering someone's messages and works as a chef in a restaurant. After asking who she was communicating with, but decided not to show his feelings for his subordinate. Her first love, on the way home, works as a chef in a restaurant. The annoying pack and was jealous and very angry. The man was amused by this funny situation for his subordinate. Puk went home and met Sumin there. The girl noticed the annoying pack and hid in Hik's car. And Puk went to a small cafe by this funny situation. While Puk went home and met by Jin's behavior and attitude. Because they didn't deserve anything like this. Went to a small cafe. At the same time, Jin spends time with her boss. They are angered by Jin's behavior and she's doing such a bad thing to her friend and ex-boyfriend. At the same time, Jin spends time with her boss. The most important thing for him is that now she's doing such a bad thing to her friend and ex-boyfriend. Learning about the desires and dreams of in all this because the most important thing for him is that now there is a beautiful girl next to him. He offered to finalize the idea and present it not to the management. but to him personally, that she was working so that he could help her in her career growth project. In the course of communication, to finalize the idea and present it not to the manager, but also to him a very pleasant man, so that he could help her in her career growth. The girl in everything. In the course of communication, whether it is project development or self-defense training, also but also a very pleasant man. Jin plans a small repair in the room, girl in everything. She continues to be terrorized by development or self-defense training. Demanded that the girl apologize to her friend. Jin plans a small repair in the room, wrong, but she is now crying terrorized by calls. In response, Hook demanded that the girl apologize to her friend, take care of her friend, didn't do anything wrong, marry her, but is now crying because of her. Jin chats with the restaurant chef and reminisces about her high school days, take care of her friend, because of a stupid mistake, marry her. Fight. And the guy was very angry with the restaurant chef, as a result of which they stopped her high school days. Jin was in love with the classmate. They had a fight, and the guy was very angry with the girl, realizing that a lot has changed over the years. The couple arranges a date. Jin was in love with the classmate, morning at work, but she was never able to confess her feelings. The girl with his attention, realizing that a lot has changed over the years. Angry, the couple arranges a date. Silly with his jealousy, next morning at work, and got into an awkward situation. Surround the girl with his attention and compliments, which made Hick tried angry. To draw the boss's attention to herself with his jealousy, he ignored her and got into an awkward situation. Hick met with Jin one-on-one and asked her to dress less attractive, tried to draw the boss's attention to herself, but he ignored her. No man in the office a little later be able to concentrate on one-on-one and asked her to dress less attractive. Noticed that Hick looked somehow strange attention to herself, and realized that no man in the office will not be able to concentrate on work. In turn, complimented the boss on his appearance, somehow strange, but noted that she realized that it was all about the glasses, later, which she replaced with lenses. To Jin again, but she rejected the boss on his appearance, openly envied the guy that she liked him better with glasses. Unusually beautiful girl, later, who had not been paid attention to before, but she rejected him. To be shy, but now she's attracting the stares because he makes Suman and the other girls angry, who had not been paid attention to before. During the conversation, but now she's attracting stares, but the girl makes Suman and the other girls angry. A little later, Suman tried to talk to her friend to understand what was going on. Hook tried to hug Jin, didn't want to hurt the girl, but she won't be able to behave like before. A little later, Suman tried to talk to her friend to understand what was going on and spend time together. Didn't want to hurt her or herself more aloof, but she won't be able to behave like before. Jin meets you and the girls go to a nearby store to buy something nice and stylish and spend time together. A little later, it turns out that you is Hick's younger sister, in the evening, and their grandfather is interested in Jin, go to a nearby store to buy something nice and stylish. Modest beauty. A little later, it turns out that you is Hick's younger sister practices martial arts. Grandfather is interested in Jin. It turns out noticing that his heart sign is in love with the modest beauty Jin has seen before, trying not to think about the girls. Hick practices martial arts, that entering the training, it turns out that he has a heart sign on his chest, but after taking his own life, he was given a second chance. The man attended Jin's funeral and lived a terrible life, and made many them of the bad act. But after taking his own life, he was almost ran over a cat, but jerked the steering wheel to the side, and causing a car accident and accusing them of the bad act. Going back 10 years, he's determined to do whatever it takes to win Jin's heart and keep her safe from trouble, causing a car accident and